Have you ever been asked to do something in an acting class that you thought was just too weird? We're talking today with actor Venus Monique about her initial dislike for acting and her surprise calling to do just that. We'll talk about her journey, her training, her early experiences, about following God's leading, and the events leading up to her significant role in the hit faith-based crime drama, Vindication. But first, if you're finding this podcast helpful, take a moment to follow or subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you think others would be interested in listening, please rate and review to make it easier for others to find. You can leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or podchaser.com.
This is the Faith and Family Filmmakers Podcast, helping filmmakers who share a Christian worldview stay in touch, informed, and inspired. Quiet on set. Rolling. Your hosts, Geoffrey and Jaclyn Whitt.
Welcome to the Faith and Family Filmmakers Podcast. I'm Geoffrey Whitt.
And I'm Jaclyn Whitt.
Thank you for joining us. Today we're talking with Venus Monique.
She's an actor, a producer, and the leader of a faith-based women's film group. However, Venus Monique did not always want to be an actor. Actually, she didn't even consider it until she was in college and God told her to make it her career. Since then, she's earned numerous awards for her deep emotional range and sincere ability to bring her characters to life. She's most known for her lead role of Detective Chris Tanner in the hit crime drama, Vindication.
Welcome, Venus.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. Thanks, y'all, for having me.
Good to have you.
Yes. Okay, so I want to hear about how you got into acting. Did you always want to be an actor?
No. I actually tried it in high school. I don't really know why I tried it. I think I went for modeling, and they were like, well, you're too short to do modeling, but you should try acting. And so I did try it, and I did it for about 2 weeks. I got with an agent. I was with an agency for a year, but for 2 weeks, I did like classes and all the stuff in LA. And there were these weird, act like a squirrel, lay on the ground, like all these super weird things. And I was like, this is terrible. I don't know why people want to do this. And so when I got done with that, I was like, okay, the year is over. I'm moving back to where I came from, and I hate acting, and that is not in my future. And then in college, God was like, hey, you're doing acting, which I can gladly tell that story if you want. But no, to answer your question, I hated acting.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it sounds like, they wanted to get you out of your comfort zone, but it's like, yeah, but that's really weird.
Super weird.
So,
yeah.
Probably common.
I think so, honestly. I think it was. And I was just like, if this is what they have to do, like this is not for me. But that was my only experience of it. So I thought that's what you do across the board. And I don't, I don't know.
Wow. Yeah, that's
okay.
It's weird.
So a moment ago, you said, I can go into that story if you want, when you were in college and you felt that God was saying, you're going to get into acting.
It
Tell
was
us.
the weirdest thing. I was just walking on campus, and I hadn't thought about acting like at all. I was getting my degree in kinesiology and sports science. And then I was walking on the sidewalk, I guess to another class, and I looked over and I saw the theater building, and it just hit me. I want to do acting. Why am I not getting my degree in theater? But the other part of my brain, it was like both parts woke up, and the part of my logical brain was like, no, you hate acting. But then it was like immediately I realized, oh, that wasn't my thought that just came in. That was God. It really felt like it just dropped into my head. And I immediately knew like purpose. Oh, that's what I'm supposed to do, acting. Okay. And so I literally, after I felt that, I guess, firmness, I went to my dorm room and I got out a notebook and I wrote down like my 5 lines in the sand in red ink. And I just remember I wanted to write it down before, if I knew for sure that I was going to do this, which I did, then I didn't want to get stuck in those sticky situations that actors often get stuck in, and they compromise and they compromise. And so I had just written down 5 things that I knew I wouldn't do if this was the thing I'm supposed to pursue.
Are you able to share those things?
I don't remember what they are now. I know now what I will and won't do, but I think one of them is I won't promote alcohol or cigarettes. So like I won't do a commercial for it, but I may play someone. Yeah, I may play someone who does that. And I won't wear a bikini or bra and underwear. I just won't do swimsuits in general. Like I won't be in that outfit. Kissing a dude is one of them. And that, like, for me, that even goes, like, there's lesser offensive things that I still wouldn't do, but kissing for sure and beyond, I will not. There's something else. There's, like, 2 more things. But yeah, that's kind of the gist.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically just starting by saying, okay, if I'm going to do this, here are my boundaries. And just like recognizing that within this industry, like you said, there are people that compromise. And then eventually they don't even know where their boundaries are anymore, or even if they have
exactly.
any.
And that, to me, when I tell people, like when someone asks for advice for new actors, I'm like, know your boundaries, number one, but also make them known. But when I say know your boundaries, I'm talking about writing it out, because when you write something out, you have to finish the thought. You can't think like, I don't think I'd cuss. I'm not sure. Like, I feel like one of my lines is going to be that I won't do this. But until you write it down and you have a period at the end of it, that's when you know it's firm and you've thought about it. And so you can always go back and be like, this is how I felt unaffected when I wasn't influenced by money, when I wasn't influenced by connections, when I wasn't tempted with fame.
Yes.
So writing those things down before anything comes of your career is like one of the best things you can do.
Yeah. And I mean, even like what you were saying with making them known, my son did some background acting. And so one of the things that we did with letting the agent know was that he didn't do Halloween scenes, nothing with magic in it. So then she just didn't call us for those roles. So he got called for the other ones. Like he was willing to hold hands with a girl and pretend like they were boyfriend, girlfriend. But he was not going to go and participate in these things that had to do with magic or Halloween or whatever. It was just, it's not part of our lifestyle, and we're not going to go out there and pretend that it is.
I love that you said that. That's not on my list, but it's on my internal list. Like I wouldn't do that. But you're so right, because there's magic, sorcery, witchcraft. I mean, maybe if it's a spiritual warfare story, I will do something. But as far as promoting it and things like that, no Halloween.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's kind of the thing too. If it was something that was not glorifying it, but that happened to be part of the story where, the redemption came from, that's a different situation. And I think it would be like a case by case as far as where the comfort level would be. But like you said, with not wanting to promote drugs or alcohol, it's the same thing where sometimes it's about, am I promoting it, or am I recognizing, like, is the storyline saying, okay, this is not healthy? And so then the storyline is about redeeming somebody out of that situation. Then there might be a different approach to it. So we'll come back to some boundaries in a bit, because it's a very interesting conversation. But I want to hear more of how you moved into it, because for somebody to just say, okay, so I guess I'm going to go into acting. Okay, so then how does that happen?
Yeah, I'm glad you'll ask that, because I'm somebody who likes to know the how. When someone's like, I just made the jump. And I'm like, no, but where are all the baby steps you did in between?
Yeah, right?
I actually created an actor guide for people who were trying to get into the industry, because I would get a lot of other people trying to do it, or moms wanting to get their kids into it. And they're like, what did you do and how did you get started? And I would be writing the same thing to all these people because I want them to know what I did. And so I ended up creating a guide, which I'm happy to offer if you guys want. But once I knew, there happened to be 2 major feature films shooting near my college. And somehow it was like a God thing at my work. This guy came in, he was the prop master, and he was looking for, I guess, just different props, clothing items in our store. And when he was checking out, I heard him telling my fellow coworker about it. And as he was leaving, like walking out the door, I was like, oh, I want to be in that film. I said something like that. And he heard me. So he came back in with a business card. And he was like, hey, I heard what you said. Here's my card. We're going to be filming this day. Come out there. And I was like, whoa, yeah.
Wow.
So it was wild. So I showed up and I did the whole like extras thing. And then another film came out. And so I was like a little more comfortable. I don't remember how I got on that one or even knew it was out there, but I was also an extra. So one of them, the first one was with Daniel Day-Lewis. And then the second one was with Tommy Lee Jones. And so it was like big productions for my first experience on set. Yeah. And then after college, knowing that that was what I needed to do, I was like, well, I guess I need to go somewhere where there's acting opportunities and coaches and all of that. So I went to a certain town for a little bit, did a little bit of acting there. A friend saw on the news that there was a feature film that was casting. And so I was like, well, I didn't hear about that, but I went and looked it all up. And she's like, yeah, you need to do it, because they knew I wanted to do acting. And I looked it up and I was like, oh, they're having auditions. I think it was like in 2 days or 3 days or something. And I submitted to it and they wrote back like, yeah, send us your headshot and your resume and all that jazz. Well, I sent it and then I didn't hear back. And I was like, well, I guess they didn't like it. Like maybe they don't want me to show up. But at the same time, they didn't say no. So they already put in the news like where they're having auditions. I'm just going to show up. So I showed up. I wasn't on the list, so I had to wait to be the very last person to audition. And I did audition, and I ended up booking the lead role in that movie.
What?
I was like, what?
Wow. So,
Yeah.
so
Lead
then,
role. Crazy.
So being naive allowed you
Pretty
to get
much.
cast.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know how this goes.
If you don't get called back, you're like, well, they didn't say
Exactly.
no.
I'm going for it. And so, yeah.
Oh, that's,
And then, so
that's
that was in
awesome.
that little town. But then when I was like, okay, I need to do the coaches and the acting classes and opportunities, that's when I moved to Austin, Texas. And I was like, all right, I guess I got to figure this out. And that was like a whole nother beast of trying to figure things out, which is a whole story in itself. And I'm happy to share.
So for the beginning, for your acting, was it all features or did you do commercial work? Like, how versatile were you?
Yeah. So in the beginning, once I did those 2 extra roles in that feature film, I don't remember what year I was in college, but after he told me that, I did do a couple of plays in college because I was like, well, I guess this is what he called me to. And so I did get, shockingly again, it was just like God confirming it. I got the lead role in a play called The Children's Hour. Never auditioned for a stage before, but yeah, I got the lead role in that, which was holy cow learning experience to have that much dialogue in a play and then have to do performances over and over.
Wow.
So I did that. I think I did another play, and then I did, I want to say 3 plays I did in college. And after that, when I told you I moved to that small town, I went to something at the mall. And at the end of that event, there was a guy that was like, hey, if anybody here wants to be in a film, I have a short film that I'm doing. Just stay after, and I'd love to talk to you. And I was like, right place, right time. So I stayed after and talked to him, and he had auditions. I booked that short film. I don't remember if I did the short film and that lead role for the feature film. Like, I don't know which one was first. But out of the short film that I did, he also did some voiceover stuff. So because we knew each other, he was like, hey, would you want to come in and do a voiceover part for like this junior college or something? And I was like, sure. And then he was like, hey, would you want to come back in and do a voiceover for a hotel? And I was like, sure. And then somehow I got like on a mall commercial. I don't remember how these things came about. It was 2 years that I was in that little town, and I was just kind of doing what I could there. And after the 2 years, I went to Austin. So kind of versatile with no training.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Join us for the International Christian Film and Music Festival, where faith and creativity come to life. Watch over 150 inspiring films, rub shoulders with celebrities, connect with top-notch distributors, and learn from industry experts. Share in fellowship with like-minded Christians, and savor a music showcase that will uplift your spirit. Experience the glamour of walking the red carpet and revel in the extravagance of our awards ceremonies. Don't miss this divine celebration. Get your tickets now at www.internationalcff.com. It's time to be part of something truly special.
Hey actors, need more clips to broaden your spectrum? Or maybe you're just getting started and you're stuck in the catch-22 of needing work to get a reel, but needing a reel to get work. I'm Jaclyn Whitt, an award-winning screenwriter, and I'm running a 90-minute screenwriting workshop on April 18 to guide you through the process of writing your own 1-minute demo reel. Learn how to write to your acting strengths and how to capitalize on your existing resources. Go to faffassociation.com and look under the Workshops tab to sign up now. That's faffassociation.com. Did you eventually find training that didn't make you crawl on the floor?
Yeah, so I didn't actually start training till I moved to Austin in 2010. And I had tried different acting coaches because I know there's a lot of different techniques. So I would go like audit a class and see if that was something I wanted to do. Sometimes I would do a month. I did Meisner for 2 years, 2.5 years. And then there was an advanced scene study class I ended up doing for 4 years. I was doing Meisner and the advanced scene study at the same time. And I felt like the advanced scene study class was much more effective, and it was healthy, like mentally. And it was quick. Like I could really get into the character quickly. So I kept that one. But I did try like a lot of workshops, commercial workshops, different trainings, like on-camera trainings and improv. And I did all of that before I stuck to that one. And so I think just getting exposed to a bunch of different techniques really helped.
Yeah, I bet. I have a question. Sorry, just going back for a second, because you said, that you were in theater for a little bit. I'm curious because I know you mentioned it's a heavy load for dialogue and like there's a lot of memorization, right? You're memorizing the entire play because you're doing the whole thing in one shot. What is the difference between doing a stage production and film production when it comes to memorizing lines?
And a series.
Yeah. Oh man, the camera is so much more forgiving. Like, I guess I should say TV and film is much more forgiving than stage if you forget your lines. If you forget your lines on stage, you just hope that your fellow actor can trigger you. Like, you hope that they are in the scene and they can give you that one line that's going to pull you back in. But as far as like getting the work down, I didn't have training when I was doing stage, so I don't know what I would have done differently. But I just was digging into memorizing it. And I will tell you, I probably wouldn't have done as well. But I remember sitting on a bench with one of the experienced stage guys. He'd been doing this for a few years. And he was complaining to me about how all these newbies, it was like a bunch of them, but there was a handful of newbies in our play that when we would have rehearsal, they didn't know their lines. And he was just frustrated with them. And I was like, oh, shoot.
And you're one of the newbies?
Yeah. But I don't think he was looping me into them, but it hit me. I was like, oh, snap. Yeah, this is a big deal. So thankfully, we had that conversation because after that, I really dug in and I don't even know how I memorized them. Like, it must have been God because I didn't have any sort of training. It's just like, I'm going to memorize all these lines and all these, gosh, I don't even know what they're called now, acts. All of these acts. Just, wild. And then for things like TV and film, it's very different because I have that training. I know how to develop that character. And when you go to film, you get your call sheet. So you kind of know, all right, I'm doing this scene first, and this is my heavy scene. So I'm going to focus on this scene and like making this real to me right now. And then once that's out of the way, I'm going to dig in a little more to the next scene. I do homework on the whole thing, but then I really get specific when shooting time comes and we're about to film. And I'm like, okay, let me develop this scene much more.
Right. So heading to set, you are prepared to film specific scenes, not the entire episode.
I'm pretty much prepared to film the entire episode because of the homework I've done. But I just get a little more specific on those certain scenes when it's on the day.
Yeah. It happens.
Yes. And there's a little bit of, I guess, grace too, or a little cushion whenever, even if it's a scene that you're in, when they're flipping the camera on your scene partner, you're like, okay, I have a little extra time to get this part down if you don't have it down. So there are like pockets of time where you can really get it a little bit deeper, but not on stage.
Okay, so after you did that training, like how far was it from that point to when you got onto Vindication? What was that journey like?
That is a Jared question. No, because I don't know. I don't remember when I actually got on Vindication. Oh, yes, I do. Okay, so 2010 is when I moved to Austin, started doing training. And then I found that one class and did that for like 4 years. And I don't know if it was after that. Yeah, it was after that because so funny the way God works. But he pulled me out of acting. So I stopped doing that class because I just felt like I could feel God shifting things and saying, take a step away, like step back from acting. And I was like, okay. And so that was about 2017. And at the same time, my agency dissolved. She was a great agency. She was doing wonderful. Yeah. And she was wonderful to work with, but she dissolved. I felt God asking me to step away from it. So my husband and I actually moved away from Austin. We moved out west. We thought we were going to do like oil field stuff or something. And I was out there for about 7 months or so. I had met Jared prior to God asking me to step back. It was at a film festival. Jared had just done the first episode of Vindication, which was just a short film. Like, he had no plans to turn it into a series. And so I met him at that film festival, and sometime before the festival ended, he was like, hey, if this thing becomes a series, would you want to be a detective? Like, would you want a recurring role as a detective? And I was like, well, yeah, like that would be awesome.
Sure.
Cool.
But then at the same time, I was like, I'm not going to hold my breath because he doesn't know if he's going to turn it into a series. Also, like, you just don't know.
Yeah. Guy with a short film, who knows?
Right. And you don't know if people are going to keep their word. So it was just whatever.
Yeah.
But then we had kind of stayed in contact. Jared actually booked me on a short film, which I think was kind of my trial to see if he liked working with me and to see if I was a diva, like those type of things. So we did that.
Right.
And then when we had moved, Jared messaged me and he was like, hey, that role is ready if you want it. And he knew that I felt God was taking me out of acting. He was like, I know that you feel like God's asked you to step away from acting. So I totally get it. but why don't you pray about it and let me know? And I was like, that would be great because I really want the role, but I really feel like God told me to step away. So I want to be obedient. So I was praying and I was like, Lord, what would you have me do? Like, I will do what you want, but I'm so conflicted right now because I feel like you gave me both.
Right.
And he's just so good. So the next day, we were out there and I was going to go find a job. So I went to a temp agency. And for your listeners who may not know what that is, it's just like a staffing agency where they put you at different employers for a short period of time while they're needing help. So I walked in, and when I walked in, there was a dude sitting on the left in a chair, and he greeted me very kindly, which I thought was really weird for somebody looking for a job, but I just kind of brushed it off. And then I go up to the desk and there's no one there, but then this lady pops out of her office and she looks at me and she goes, would you want to be in a commercial? I was like, a commercial for what? And she said, for my staffing agency, I was just in my office praying that God would send me an actor. Oh. And I was like, that's perfect because I am an actor. Yeah. And it was like God saying, yes, take Vindication. That's for you. And so I called Jared and I was like, Jared, I'm in. He confirmed it. So I didn't answer your question. How many years?
Wow,
I think that might have been 2017. Yeah.
We talked to Jared recently, so he told us some of that story of filming the first episode, which wasn't an episode, just a short film, and then a second short film. And so, it's an interesting story.
And then, of course, we had to go and rewatch season 1
Yeah, we
on YouTube,
just watched season 1 again.
Did he also tell you how, like, he had no plans of it going further, but they were, like, at the end of the festival route?
Oh, yeah.
They weren't going to do anything else with it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's really amazing. And I think it's groundbreaking in the Christian television industry, I guess. Like, because a series, like a crime series for Christians, like, that never had been done before.
And it's done so well. It's done tastefully and, like, you can be interested in it because it's got that element of the crime drama that you want, but none of the junk that you don't want.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, even the faith elements are, they're just normalized in people's lives, which is normal in Christian lives. It's just not normal on TV.
And I love that he is willing to kind of like step into those areas of, I guess, difficulty in life that some people aren't willing to step into. And he addresses that in such a wise way, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, very clever.
Before we finish up this portion of our interview, I'd like to invite you to go deeper in our discussion with Venus in Part 2, our exclusive members episode. We'll discuss her How to Get Into Acting guide, navigating the industry with personal boundaries, and Christian actresses empowering and supporting each other in the Powerhouse Sisterhood Suite. You can hear Venus's bonus episode and continue receiving these exclusive episodes going forward by becoming a supporting member. $5 a month helps support the production of this podcast and doubles the inspiring content you receive every single week. Sign up now and get the first month free. You can find the link in the show notes or simply go to faffpodcast.com/support. That's faffpodcast.com/support.
All right. So as we come to the close of this portion of our interview, tell our listeners where they can find your download of How to Get Into Acting, the one you were mentioning earlier. Do you have a link or something that they can go to?
Yeah. So my company is called Personal Powerhouse. So the link is personalpowerhouse.com/how-to-start-acting-guide. That's literally it with a dash in between each word.
Okay.
And I thought about shortening it, and I thought, well, that's pretty specific.
Perfect.
So.
We'll make sure that we have that in our show notes also. But yeah, we want to make sure people have the ability to go and download that. It sounds like it's very useful.
And I've got, I put like the steps that I use to get into it. Everybody has their own journey, but there's pros and cons in there. There's tips that I wish I would have known. There's all kinds of like extra information. It's a few pages, but totally free for whoever wants it.
I think when we do the next interview for the members, we would like you to get into that a little.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And we want to hear a little bit more about what you do with Powerhouse. So we'll see you in the next interview and hear about that.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Faith and Family Filmmakers podcast. If you would like email reminders about newly released episodes and more, please sign up at faffpodcast.com/email. That's faffpodcast.com/email. Bringing filmmakers together for faith and family.
That's a wrap.